So welcome to the sequel. Here the absurdity is even greater, the stakes are even higher, and logic has finally left the building. In this part we will talk not only about things but about the strange mechanisms in our heads. About fears, habits, rituals, and the desire to look a little better than we are. And if you think that this time you will definitely guess what works and what doesn't, don't rush. The world will surprise you again. Let's begin. Exhibit number 1. The disease that didn't exist. In the early 20th century, Listerine was sold as a floor cleaner and a cure for gonorrhea. Sales were sluggish until marketers pulled the term halitosis, simply bad breath, from medical dictionaries. Until then, it was considered a natural phenomenon that no one paid attention to. But advertising changed everything. Listerine began to be positioned as salvation from social ruin. Posters depicted young women who couldn't get married because they had halitosis that no one would tell them about. The company didn't just sell a liquid, it sold the fear of being rejected by society. In a few years, profits grew from thousands to millions. They invented shame so you could buy its solution. Exhibit number 2. Air in the Soul. In the 70s, an engineer named Frank Rudy came to Nike with a strange proposal. He showed them a sneaker with a transparent capsule in the sole filled with air, not gel, not shock absorbers, just air. The idea seemed suspiciously simple and even a bit fraudulent. How can you sell shoes with air inside? Air is free. It weighs nothing. It's invisible. And that's exactly why the company initially refused. But then Nike changed their minds. Thus, Nike Air was born, and later Air Max. The company turned emptiness into a premium feature and made billions of dollars from it. Exhibit number 3. Mood rings. Small bands with a soul. In the 70s, jewelry appeared on shelves that allegedly could read your emotions. The ring changed color depending on body temperature, but people were told otherwise. Blue meant calm, green meant balance, black meant stress. It sounded almost mystical. In reality, inside was ordinary thermochromic liquid. Physics. No psychology. But nobody cared anymore. It was an early analog of social media statuses. Exhibit number 4. The deodorant that promised a life. In the early 2000s, the Axe brand entered the market with a maximally brazen idea. It was an ordinary deodorant, but the advertising claimed otherwise. If you used it, women literally wouldn't be able to resist. It wasn't a scent. It was a script, a fantasy, a commercial fairy tale for teenagers wrapped in an aerosol can. It sold confidence to those who didn't have it. Translation EN. Exhibit number 5. Duct tape. Silver, rough, universal. Duct tape. This is the story of how a temporary solution became eternal. During World War II, the American Army faced a banal problem. Ammunition boxes were poorly sealed. Soldiers couldn't open them quickly enough under fire. Something strong, waterproof, and simple was needed. Thus, a fabric-backed adhesive tape on a rubber base was born. They didn't plan to sell it to civilians. It wasn't meant to be beautiful. It just had to work. Exhibit number 6. The lava lamp. An object of absolute uselessness. In the 60s, British inventor Edward Craven Walker saw a strange device in a pub. A glass bottle with wax that slowly rose and fell in liquid under the influence of heat. It didn't measure time. It didn't light the room properly. It performed no practical function. It just moved. Slowly. Hypnotically. As if breathing. And that was enough for people not to be able to look away. Exhibit number 7. Segway. The self-balancing electric scooter predicted to be a revolution. In the early 2000s, people spoke of it in whispers. Investors were certain. It would change cities, roads, the very concept of movement. Founder Dean Kamen called the invention more important than the internet. 2 wheels, gyroscopes, electric motors, a machine that kept balance for you. You simply stood on the platform and went. The future looked smooth, clean, and very expensive. Exhibit number 8. The selfie stick. An invention that looked so ridiculous that even its owners were initially ashamed of it. It's a simple telescopic stick with a smartphone holder. That's it. No electronics. No magic. It just moves the camera a little further away from your face. The first versions appeared in the early 2000s, but for a long time they remained a marginal accessory for tourists. They looked strange, funny, and even a bit humiliating. As if a person officially admitted, "Yes, I am here for myself." Exhibit number 9. Slime. A colorful, sticky, stretchy mass that has no purpose. It doesn't build. It doesn't teach. It doesn't develop skills. It just squishes. Slime appeared many times in various forms, but the real explosion happened in the mid-2010s. Kids and teenagers started mass mixing glue, activators, and dyes, creating endless variations of this substance. It looked like chemistry, but it was closer to cooking for the nervous system. And then came YouTube. And slime stopped being just a toy. It became content. Millions of people watched videos where it was cut, squeezed, folded, and stretched. Exhibit number 10. ASMR. A phenomenon that began with a strange confession. I like it when someone whispers into a microphone. For a long time, this sounded like something too personal, even shameful. But at some point, it turned out there were millions of such people. Whispering, tapping, the rustling of paper, the sound of scissors, or the slow opening of a box. All this caused a feeling of warmth, calm, and goosebumps in some people. Science couldn't explain what it was for a long time. The internet didn't wait for explanations. Exhibit number 11. The fortune cookie. A small, dry, sweet thing that no one ever ordered specifically. It appears at the end of the meal, as a bonus, as an afterword, as a light joke. Inside is a thin strip of paper with a phrase that sounds slightly wise and slightly about nothing. Most people are convinced this is an ancient Chinese tradition. In reality, it's an American invention of the early 20th century, created not for spiritual enlightenment, but to make you remember the restaurant. Food is forgotten. Predictions are not. Exhibit number 12. Capsule toys. Small plastic balls you buy from a machine for pocket change, not knowing what you'll get. Inside might be a miniature figure, a useless trinket, or something you never even planned to have. And that is exactly the point. These machines appeared in Japan back in the mid-20th century and immediately became not about the toys, but about the anticipation. You aren't buying an object. You are buying the moment when the ball falls, cracks, and opens. A business built on the same mechanics as a casino, just without the bans and guilty conscience. Small price. Instant result. Exhibit number 13. Blue light glasses. Thin lenses with a barely noticeable yellowish tint that promise to save your eyes, sleep, and nervous system. When screens took over our lives, people urgently needed an enemy. And blue light became that enemy. Marketing explained. It tires you, harms you, prevents sleep. It sounded scientific. In reality, there was little evidence of catastrophic harm. But the fear had already appeared, and with it, the product. Exhibit number 14. The red plastic cup. That one. Cheap. Light. Disposable. It wasn't created as an icon. It was just tableware for picnics and mass events, stronger than paper and not as fragile as glass. The Solo company started producing it back in the mid-20th century without embedding any philosophy. It appeared at college parties, in movies, music videos, and TV shows. If there is a red cup in the frame, it's informal here, it's unofficial here, there is freedom and light chaos here. Paint palette. Exhibit number 15. Writing on walls. Live, laugh, love. Home. Family. Blessed. This isn't just decor, it's philosophy printed in a font. In the 2000s, the world suddenly decided that feelings could be replaced by words, and words could be hung over the sofa. These phrases didn't reveal anything new. They weren't profound, but they created the feeling that life was ordered, correct, and meaningful. Even if that wasn't quite the case. Paint palette, exhibit number 16. Bubble wrap. An invention that was never planned to be this way. In the 50s, two engineers tried to create textured wallpaper with air bubbles. The idea failed miserably. No one wanted to cover their walls with something that looked like a soft packaging nightmare. But the material turned out to be surprisingly useful for something else. Bubble wrap became an anti-stress tool long before the word anti-stress came into fashion. Come on, admit in the comments, did you pop the little bubbles? I personally did. Paint palette. Exhibit number 17. The return of the rock. Yes, a rock again. But this time, in the digital age. After the original success of the 70s, the idea of nothing as a product didn't die. It was just waiting for a new medium. In the 2000s, apps, NFTs, and online services appeared offering almost nothing. Virtual rocks, digital items without functions, unique objects that cannot be used, only owned. The idea looked like a joke on the very concept of value. But people bought. And they are buying. Paint palette. Exhibit number 18. Unboxing. The moment when the box is still closed and anticipation is at its maximum. It used to be just a necessary evil between purchase and use. You cut the tape, took out the styrofoam, threw away the instructions, and moved on. But at some point, someone noticed a strange thing. Opening the box is more pleasant than using what is inside. YouTube turned unboxing into a separate genre. Millions of people watch others open things they themselves will never buy. Paint palette. Exhibit number 19. Limited edition. Magic words that instantly change the value of anything. The same thing. The same materials. The same function. But now, only 500 units, or 100, or this month only. This trick has existed for centuries, but in mass culture, it became a weapon. People didn't need more quality. They needed fewer others. Ownership turned into a competition with time and quantity. Paint palette. Exhibit number 20. Life hacks. Short videos and pictures that promise to make life easier in 30 seconds. How to peel a banana with a fork. How to fold a t-shirt in 2 moves. How to use a bottle for something other than its purpose. These tips look genius, right up to the moment you try to repeat them in reality. Most life hacks either don't work or save such a meager amount of time that it's laughable. But they have one flawless quality. They are pleasant to watch. Paint palette. Exhibit number 21. Nothing. Packaged, signed, and displayed on a shelf. In various years, people bought boxes containing air, emptiness, nothing inside, as a joke, as a protest, as art, or as a gift with subtext. An empty box became a statement. If everything around is selling something, then nothing suddenly looks more honest than everything else. It doesn't promise change. It doesn't guarantee benefits. It doesn't pretend to be a solution. It just exists. And that is already enough to pay for it. Paint palette. Exhibit number 22. Juicero. A startup that decided juice was too simple. In the mid-2010s, a $400 device appeared in Silicon Valley. It was a Wi-Fi connected juicer that worked only with special packets of fruit puree. The packets had a chip. Without authorization, not a single drop of juice. The machine didn't trust you. It knew better. Investors were delighted. Over $100 million were invested in the project. The future of juice looked digital. Paint palette. Exhibit number 23. NFT. Or to be more precise, 1 pixel. A single digital square that at one point cost more than a house. In the early 2020s, the world decided that now we can own files. Not copies, not images, but the original, a record in the blockchain that says, "This is yours." Everyone could see the file itself. It could be saved, copied, sent. But only one person owned the right to say, "I am the owner," and that turned out to be enough. Paint palette, exhibit number 24. Google Glass. Glasses that were supposed to make us cyborgs and made us socially awkward. In the early 2010s, Google showed the world the future. Augmented reality, right before your eyes. Messages, maps, camera, search, everything always with you. It looked like the next step in evolution. Chosen testers walked with their heads held high, as if they were already living in 2035. The rest of humanity looked at them with mild horror. Paint palette. Exhibit number 25. Blue light glasses. An item that appeared exactly at the moment when we stopped looking away from screens. We were told that smartphones, laptops, and monitors emit dangerous blue light that tires the eyes, ruins sleep, and slowly steals our lives. The solution? Very simple. Buy special glasses with a barely noticeable yellowish tint. They look scientific, technological, protective. The ideal accessory for a person who spends 10 hours a day in front of a screen and has no intention of changing that. Paint palette. Exhibit number 26. Hoverboard. A name that promised flight but guaranteed asphalt. In the mid-2010s, mass hysteria swept the world. Self-balancing two-wheeled boards suddenly appeared everywhere. They didn't fly. They didn't even have handlebars. But the word hover did the job. Stars rode them in music videos, bloggers in vlogs, children in living rooms. It looked like the future had finally arrived. At least on YouTube. Paint palette. Exhibit number 27. Smart toothbrush. At some point, the industry decided that we don't even brush our teeth consciously enough. Thus appeared a brush with Bluetooth, motion sensors, and a mobile app. It tracks how long you brush your teeth, at what angle, with what inspiration, and whether you neglected the upper left corner. The brush sends reports, gives grades, motivates with badges. Hygiene suddenly became analytics. Paint palette. Exhibit number 28. Smart pillow. When they decided to optimize even sleep. Inside are motion sensors, pressure sensors, and sometimes even a microphone. The pillow analyzes how you lie, how often you turn over, whether you snore, and what phase of sleep you are in. In the morning, the app gives a verdict. Sleep, 62%. Could be better. It turns out you didn't just sleep, you did it inefficiently. Paint palette. Exhibit number 29. Smart trash can. Once, a trash can was simple. A lid, a bag, and a silent agreement that it had seen a lot but never judged. And then it got sensors. The lid started opening with a wave of a hand. Inside fullness indicators, sometimes even a connection to an app. The trash can knows when it needs to be taken out. It glows. It beeps. It reminds. A thing created to accept the unwanted suddenly became too complex itself. Paint palette. Exhibit number 30. Smart fork. When it seemed there was nowhere left to get smarter, someone decided the problem is how we eat. Inside the fork are motion sensors and a timer. It tracks how quickly you bring food to your mouth.